What's the most awkward move someone has made on you? I worked for my local school system for a bit. The staff/teachers all went out to happy hour one Friday and invited me. I didn't know teachers loved to get frickin' wasted. A newly divorced music teacher came up to me and told me how we haven't had an attractive IT guy in so long, and then proceeded to tell me how she has only had C-sections, so everything was still intact. She was super drunk, but boy was it uncomfortable to just fake laugh and try to slowly move away. We now have a Discord. Check out the server in the link in the description. Story 2. I had a random older guy walk up to me and strike up a conversation while on a walk in the park. He seemed like a regular guy who felt lonely after moving to a different country. I felt sorry for him, so we talked for a while. Then he tried to convince me to wander off the path to take a picture together. I respectfully declined and kept walking. He then told me about his heart condition. Apparently he'd have a heart contact if he doesn't get regular handies, and I would be helping him out. Noped the hell out of there and disappeared into the next subway station. Now, I know subway station, not a subway, but I still want to make the joke that either way OP would be handling a foot long. Or probably half, let's be real. Story 3. I'm 17, working behind the counter of a local pizza/sub/pasta, etc. place. It's close to closing time, so around 9. Drunk, creepy man in his 50s is standing at the counter drinking a beer, while I put together his sub and make awkward small talk. He then asks me what time I get done with work and if I want to join him for a drink. Bear in mind again, I'm 17, but I also look way younger. Always have. I decline with the excuse that I'm not old enough to drink. And he just kind of pauses and says, "That's not a problem, I have enough beer in my hotel room to get you drunk." I just kind of shook my head no, with what I presume to be a deer in the headlights look. I hand him his now wrapped sub and walk out back to wait for him to leave. I called my dad to come walk with me home that night. Didn't have a family car and worked about a 5-minute walk away from home. Story 4. My now wife and I have been dating about 6 months when we went camping with her family. It's my first family trip with them and I'm on my best behavior. Her older sister was there because she had gotten into a fight with her fiancé and was drinking her problems away that weekend. I point out that there happened to be a dance competition in the campground, and being the dumb white kid that I was, made a joke that I could win doing breakdancing, which I absolutely cannot do. And her drunk sister proclaims in front of everyone that she could win by giving me a lap dance. I had no idea what to say. My wife lost it on her sister. Their dad, though, having a twisted sense of humor, found it hilarious. Most awkward camping trip ever. Story 5. Guy told me he wanted to go on a date. Got dressed up and wore my best jewelry and bag. Turns out he just wanted a blowy in his car. And also wanted to film it. And then got a call from his mom and had to go. I had him drop me off at a theater near my house so my parents wouldn't ask why I was back in less than 5 minutes. OP. Oh, I'm so sorry. That super sucks. But, how does that happen? How does this guy seem good enough to go out on a date with and then this happens? I don't get it. Story 6. When I was 16, I was at a friend's house drinking alcohol that his mom bought for us. The room was spinning and I was starting to pass out, so I crawled under the kitchen table to sleep. The next thing I know, his mom is under the table with me, trying to take my clothes off. I fought her off for 5 minutes and made my way to the bathroom, locked the door, and slept in there. OP, my dude, what? You got assaulted. This is messed up. Story 7. So like most of these awkward stories, I was at the bar. It was close to last call and I was playing pool. This fairly attractive, or at least I remember it that way, girl came up to me saying she had her eye on me all night. She starts grinding on me and kissing my neck and her hands go up my shirt. It's tacky because there are people everywhere, but hey, why not? She then lifts my shirt and takes a good bite at my nip. Of course, I jump back like 5 feet and say, "Holy shit, what the hell?" And she got embarrassed and ran out of the bar. After all that, she's the one to run away. Are you serious? She made the moves. She's got to deal with the consequences as far as I'm concerned. That's weird. Story 8. Moved to a new town. Ate mushrooms in a park and walked around. Got approached by another man looking for a gay hookup. I watched his face turn several shades of red and purple before putting it together what was going on. Turned him down, but he followed me around for a while, desperately trying to get laid. Got out of there and learned later that that was not only a good fishing spot, but it was also kind of an underground gay hookup spot. Awkward as hell. Story 9. In college, I met this guy and we decided to hang out. He picked me up from my dorm and we were supposed to go back to his apartment to watch movies. During the ride, he was pretty much quiet the whole time and staring straight ahead, as if he was trying to not look at me. We arrived at the parking lot to his apartments. He parked and continued staring straight ahead like a crazy person. Then he suddenly puts his hand on my upper thigh. I immediately moved his hand away and asked him what the hell he was doing. He didn't answer. He just started the car and silently drove me back to my dorm. I swear it felt like a scene from Halloween. So there's socially awkward and unable to talk to women, and then there's whatever this is. Story 10. Some guy came up to me while I was walking to class on the college campus. He said, "Nice day, huh?" And I agreed it was in fact a nice day. "Good weather for a blowy, huh?" And I was sort of startled. But I conceded the point that I suppose it was good weather. Rookie mistake. He asked if I wanted one. I informed him I was heading to my anthrobiology lecture and walked off. I wonder how many times that line has worked for him because 2 semesters later on the same campus, he used it again on me. I assume he didn't recognize me. Hey, man was on a mission. He was direct. Fair enough. Is it probably harassment? I don't know. Story 11. I was watching a football game in a bar with a bunch of people from my hometown that I didn't know that well. Some kid a few years older than me kept saying random crap to me, and I was trying to politely ignore him. As I was watching one of the TVs, I yawned, and he immediately stuck his finger all the way into my mouth. And then after realizing how freaking weird he had just been, went, "I didn't know you well enough to do that." Story 12. I've got 2 from 2 different times at the same bar. First one was the first time I'd been out drinking at a bar with my brother since he just turned 21 a couple weeks before. Turns out he is a lot of fun while drinking. So him and I are going drink for drink as fast as we can. After a round, I said let's go get another, and we start walking to the bar. I feel a hand grab my butt hard as hell while walking past the dance floor. Thinking it was my brother screwing around, it was a hard grip, like hard enough to hurt. I turned and yelled, "What are you doing?" He knew I was messing around with my aggressive half yell, but the big girl with a bachelorette party sash who actually grabbed my butt looked terrified. I tried to tell her I thought it was my brother messing with me, but she must not have heard over the band and disappeared. My brother and my friends had a good laugh at that one. The next was close to closing time when they started bringing the lights up. I went to take a leak before my buddy and I called an Uber. I come out of the bathroom and I walk over to him. He started talking with a bachelorette party when I was in the bathroom. I walk over and we all start talking when the bride-to-be looked at me, took my shirt and aggressively pulled it open to look at my tattoo. She then rubbed it and touched it, saw the one on my ribs and started caressing that one too. The rib one goes from just under my armpit to the lower part of my hips, so I was loving it. But then she stopped and said she was getting married, like I was the one flirting with her, and then they disappeared. Yeah, OP, how dare you get your shirt ripped open and then your tattoos touched? Such a dirty dog you are. Story 13. A night at my sports club for someone's member of the ladies section 40th birthday. Just a couple of blokes there and a lot of tipsy ladies of a certain age. One of the ladies decides to try her luck with all the men there, including myself. 3 of the 4 of us back away from her. Us being happily coupled, her being very married. She's getting very handsy and dancing against us, and none of us want anything to do with her. Not unattractive, but no thank you. My girlfriend is right there. The 4th guy, well, what happens in the dark behind a shed is none of our business. Story 14. I was the DD for that evening because I had to get up early the next day. I had already stayed for too long. Just as I was leaving, a tipsy acquaintance stopped me, asked if I can drive her to her friend. It wouldn't be a detour, she said. I believed her, started driving, and then she started giving directions. I lived about 10 minutes away and she directed me 25 minutes in the opposite direction trying to flirt constantly. I tried to dampen her expectations by giving her 1-syllable answers. We arrive. She takes out her cell phone and acts like she's calling her friend. I can clearly see how she's dialing her flashlight app. This spiel lasted about 10 minutes until she said, "Oh, my friend isn't picking up. But that's no problem, I'll just sleep at your place." By now, I had only 3 hours to sleep until I had to get up for work, and I was really angry. Kicked her out of my car. She and her parents lived close by, still not proud of it though. And then I drove home. Never talked again. On one hand, OP, that sucks. On the other, dialing the flashlight app, ooh, that's a good one. I'm sure she almost got you. Story 15. My ex-boyfriend's brother got my phone number and texted me after me and the ex broke up, and said, "Hey, I miss hearing you and blank banging. You're so hot and you sound so hot and I can't hide my fantasy anymore." Not only was he an ex's sibling, which is obviously a no-go, but he was also 16. For the record, I was 20. I texted back to be nice and said, "Thanks for the compliment, hon, but this is obviously wrong and you're too young for me. Find a girl your age that you like." He randomly hit me up again 2 years later, excited to tell me that it was his 18th birthday. I never replied. Hey, he's got dedication. You gotta give him that. Story 16. I work in a hospital. Healthcare workers get hit on all the time. but it's usually by drunks or people who are just over-the-top flirtatious. A particularly awkward one for me, though, was a very overweight girl in her 20s. She was there for anxiety and had a fast heart rate, which is normal for anxiety attacks. But we get EKGs on any abnormal cardiac vitals just to be on the safe side. So I'm getting the EKG all set up, doing my polite professional explanation of how it all works, and she just interrupts me with this kind of stilted, "It's not every day I get a cute guy looking down my shirt," as I stick V1 and V2 on. I just kind of clear my throat and ignore it. And there's a long pause where I figure she got the hint. Then, as I ask her to lie nice and still and relax to make sure the reading is clean, she interrupts me again to say, "Just saying." I've had folks flirt with me much more aggressively than that, but that one was definitely the most awkward. It was half sad, half off-putting. No confidence in the execution. She kept interrupting me to flirt inappropriately, and I was busy as crap and had a lot of other work to do. So I didn't want to sit there and just listen to this. Story 17. It was a small party at my apartment. My roommate had people over and they were getting hammered. My girlfriend, now my wife, and I went to bed, shutting my bedroom door. Some girl kept on knocking, wanting me to come out. I have no idea who she was. Girlfriend kept yelling at her through the closed door to screw off, which she finally did. She left a note for me. GF read it and threw it away. She told me about it and I got it out of the trash to read. It was all about if I thought banging with my girlfriend was good, I needed to give her a shot, so she could show me how much better she was at banging. It was flattering, but weird and creepy. I assumed she was just wasted, and to take her up on it would have been taking advantage of a screwed-up person. I never found out exactly who she was or saw her again. It wasn't long after that I moved out of that apartment and into one with my girlfriend. OP, why did you say that like the only reason you didn't take her up on it was because they were drunk? Nothing about the fact it's like, oh, I have a girlfriend, I'm not interested. No, it's just, oh, I'm flattered, but you were drunk. Suspicious. Story 18. Ugh, this happened to me at work. I'm a barista at a locally owned cafe. It's literally my job to be nice to people, smile, and laugh at their dumb jokes. So this one guy came in twice a week for a black coffee. One day after a few months, he says, "I'd like a black coffee, please, and I want to ask you something. How do you feel about older men?" Now, I'm a pretty good sport, but this dude had already said some questionably creepy stuff. Like one time after I had to turn around and get a fresh pot of coffee, he says, "Hope you don't mind me saying this, but I could watch you work all day long." When I turned back around, his eyes suspiciously snapped back to my face from the general butt area of his vision. Anyway, back to his question. I laugh it off and say, "Haha, well, my fiance is 40. I'm 27 at the time, so I guess they're all right." He says, "Oh, you're engaged? Well, I want to ask you out to dinner." Not a question, a statement. I'm like, "Oh, that's really sweet and I'm flattered, but yes, I'm engaged." And he replies, "Well, let me know when you're not. Not if, but when." He kept coming in as usual, but now each time he comes in, he asks, "Are you still engaged? 'Cause when y'all break up, I'm gonna take you out." After a few months, I don't see him for a while. One day, I'm actually off work, but go up there to get my paycheck and a cold brew. I'm in a tank top and jeans sitting at the counter waiting for my manager, when I feel this hand that's definitely not mine, pulling my tank top and bra strap down my arm. I pretty much jump out of my skin cause who the hell is touching me / basically derobing me in public? And who else but this frickin' guy? I, as politely as I can, say, "What are you doing?" And he replies, "I'm trying to read your tattoo." I'm like, "Okay, well I can show you, please don't touch me." For the record, it's a frickin' Smashing Pumpkins lyric. It's not like some beautiful artwork piece. It's just a stupid song quote. Anyway, I tell him what it says and he feeds me some BS about how I'm beautiful inside and out, and how he can't wait to take me to dinner when I'm not engaged anymore, and how he's gonna keep asking till I give in. Like, dude, no, don't touch me. Stop staring at my butt and or breasts every time I see you. And stop asking me out, and stop implying I'll be single soon. Just stop. Story 19. I'm a bouncer in a popular bar in my area. Scanning IDs at the door one night when the dreaded bachelorette party strolls in. First couple girls in the group go normally. Then comes the bride-to-be. She grabs me by the dong and sack hard, to the point I almost hit her, and drunkenly slurs something along the lines of, "I want you to rearrange my organs." I promptly removed her hand from my genitals and refused to let them in. I don't know why one would think it's a good idea to aggressively squeeze a bouncer's balls, but I see plenty of crazy stuff on a daily basis, so it didn't really surprise me. Story 20. Okay, to start this off, I was 40, at a conference out of town hotel bar. Pretty quiet, I was having a drink and in walks a local. Everyone starts calling him by his name. He takes a seat at the bar. I'm minding my own business, but I'm friendly. Shortly, he strikes up a conversation. He is 72, divorced, living in a motel nearby, and so lonely. Would I please sleep with him? I told him I was married. He didn't care. This guy was pushing 300 pounds and begged and pleaded. Had to make a quick getaway from that one, yikes. Story 21. Asking me to code her website. Backstory. Shortly after I got married, the place I worked hired a new AP clerk. AP was right next door to IT, so I dealt with this woman a lot. After about 6 months, she asked me to help code her website. She wanted to sell stuff online. I didn't know anything about how to code a website and told her so. She left the company about 6 months later. About 2 weeks after that, I was talking to the CFO and this girl came up in conversation. "Oh man, you dodged a bullet," the female CFO told me. "She had the biggest crush on you. She devised this idea to have you code her adult toy website as a way to get your attention. She figured that you'd think any girl that was into selling intimate toys. So being asked to code a website was the most awkward way someone has tried to make a move on me. Only because I learned about it in retrospect. Story 22. A bunch of us were out at a pub, and 5 or so of us were wearing our kilts. Coming back from taking a leak, I passed by one of my friends who was chatting up a couple of women, and I felt a hand go under my kilt for a kilt check. Thinking it was the buddy I had just passed and he was messing with me, I grabbed the hand and, in a move I learned as a bouncer, spun around while I twisted the arm in a way that puts the offender face down on the floor, and or dislocates their arm and or wrist if they resist. And to my surprise, I had one of the women my bud was talking to on the floor, while everyone in the pub was staring at me like I had kicked a puppy. Oops. She wanted to grab my butt and got a bit more for her troubles. Honestly, I hate to say it, but kinda deserved. As far as I'm concerned, whether it's a kilt or a skirt or whatever, does not give you permission to stick your hand up there and grab someone's butt. That's screwed up. If you have like a thing going and you're talking and it's getting a little like, a little frisky and you're like, okay, then it's fine, sure, whatever. Randomly as they're passing by, no. You eat whatever consequences you get then. Story 23. Girl at a party that I barely knew physically threw herself into my lap, kissed me, and promptly started crying. Turned out she was 1. Married, 2. A Jehovah's Witness, and 3. Her husband had just announced he was opening the relationship. I heard later that she was planning to revenge herself by banging me before he could bang anyone. She did not. Most of the evening from that point on was basically emotional support. Story 24. I was working with this lady on a project. She's actually who got me into Reddit. She worked at a different location than me, but she was my business user responsible for testing my app. So we spent a lot of time on the phone, sometimes after hours. She said one evening, "A lot of people don't know. I'm married. Me and my husband kinda do our own thing. He travels a lot." I am familiar with open marriages and know that code. I don't get involved with coworkers though as a rule, let alone married ones. And I was recently out of a bad breakup. Plus I had no idea what she looked like. I let it pass without comment. I finally met her in person a couple of years later. One of the most beautiful women I have ever seen. Alison Brie is the closest celebrity comparison. I know I made the right call, but damn it, all the same. Story 25. One time I went to a roller rink with some coworkers. As we were about finished, we were sitting, taking off our skates, and this girl is looking at me, like she thought I was familiar or something. Didn't think anything of it and went back to talking to my people. Literally 5 seconds later, she's crawling up to me like a freaking cat stalking her prey. She then gestures her dilated pupils to behind me and not saying a word. I say hi. She says hi and continues to gesture her eyes. To remind you, all this is happening in front of my coworkers, my supervisor, and my boss. She then goes on about how I'm cute and says we could go somewhere more private. Then she, comes really close like she's trying to kiss me. At this point, I figured she had to be on drugs or something. It was the weirdest human interaction ever. I ask her awkwardly to give me some space, and she just sort of smiles and crawls back to where she was without batting an eye. My boss says it was one of the funniest things he's ever seen.